about how to buy a computer, whether it's a Duncan or any other type of computer. I think, first of all, we could start off by explaining the different types of computers that exist. There are three main categories. There are mainframe computers. And these are the computers that the Royal Bank of Canada or that Air Canada would have in place. The Royal Bank of Canada, for example, have 2,500 ATM machines throughout Canada connected to their mainframe computer, besides the computers in each one of their branches. These are multi-user, multitasking computers. They can do more than one thing at one time, and they can be used by more than one person at a time. In the early to mid-70s, the mini-frame computer or mini-computer was developed, and the prime company in the development of the mini-computer was a company called Digital. Still a multi-user, multitasking computer. It can be used by more than one user at a time and can be used to do more than one task at a time. Around the year 1975, 76, 77, individuals throughout North America, some very bright people, almost semi-hippie type individuals, started working in their basements and in their garages, and they took these chips that were shrinking down in size all the time, becoming more and more powerful, and the ability to do computing, and they decided that they would develop the microcomputer. The microcomputer, they conceived it to be a single-user, single-tasking system. In other words, only one person would be able to use it at any one time, and it would only do one thing at one time. So today, when we talk about an IBM-compatible computer, we talk about a standard that was set by IBM in 1981, 1982, when they first came out with their very first computers. What is the meaning of XT and AT and PC? Well, PC is easy, personal computer. XT and AT, I don't think anyone has ever found out why. If they have, they haven't told any of us. And it's just a name that we would give to a machine similar to giving a car a name, like a Taurus for a Ford. Well, getting back to the history of the Duncans, and of course we're looking at this whole situation, say, now what kind of computer should we be selling? Why shouldn't we sell an IBM computer? Which we could do if we wanted to. If you recall how I told you we started our business, we first of all went ahead and started a disk business. And we were used to buying things and putting our name on it or associating our name with it. And we were really not interested in going in to purchase something that we had to pay a premium for the name and may not have the same value in it. We wanted to build our business on products that had value, not just price. Well, I searched the entire market for the right computer to sell. I looked at Samsung's, I looked at Packard Bell, I looked at Hewitt Rand, and I mean, I could go on and on and on and name all kinds of computers. Today, in fact, there are about 2,500 computer manufacturers that are servicing the North American continent. I decided to work on Packard Bell computers because I felt that they had the best price-value relationship. And I went ahead and bought some and started selling them, and they were working fine, and everything was going really well. And I thought I was really on to something. I'd found a really good quality computer that had consistency and that I had some availability to it, and I was dealing with reputable suppliers that I knew would stand behind me. Well, one day I had a Packard Bell machine up on the bench, and I had a technician visiting our premises. At that time, it was in the basement of our home that we were doing all of our business. And he said, "What do you have up on the bench, John?" I said, "I have a Packard Bell 286. That's equivalent to the AT. Well, he said, "Let's go over and have a look at it." He says, "You know all of their stuff is made by Samsung, don't you?" I said, "No, I have no idea that, I didn't have any idea that that was the case." And that was a real shock to me, and it was a real disappointment to me as well, because I thought that I was working and selling for a primary manufacturer. Well, I quickly investigated this whole situation. I had already investigated the company and found them to be sound. I didn't realize that I would have to look into the methods of their manufacturing, and when I did, I discovered that this was true. And so I thought, if I'm going to go ahead and sell a Packard Bell computer here in the city of Regina and in the province of Saskatchewan to people who have never heard of that kind of computer, I might as well do exactly what Packard Bell's doing. I could take the Packard Bell name off and put my name on. Well, then I knew that that wouldn't be enough either, because that wouldn't be enough for me anyway. So I'd have to make sure that what's going into that computer I understand, and that it would be something that would have been chosen by us, and we would have known where it would come from, and we would know how to fix it if it became broken or needed repair. That's when we really decided to start making computers, and that was about 3 years ago. Why do we build our own computers? Because we know what's going into the computer. We know where it came from. We know how much we paid for it. We know its reliability. We know the reliability of the supplier. And we know what changes are going to take place with that supplier, with that component over the years. We've studied that. We've worked hard to find these sources. We only buy the best that we can find in the way of components. And naturally, who in our position would do otherwise? When you put your own name on it, and you're prepared to back it up with a 3-year warranty, and when you're prepared to trade up your client at any time, or in fact buy the computer back from your customer at any time, who else would put anything but the best inside the computer that they can find for the money? In fact, we look upon it as we're in partnership with our customers. We build all types of computers. We build computers that start off just for a basic XT compatible machine that you can take home and learn about computing. Our policy is to build a computer once and then test it twice. I'd like to tell you about how a Duncan computer is made. What we've done is taken this computer and tilted it up so you can see right inside. And we have an example here of a standard keyboard, which is easy to understand, a monitor, which is easy to understand. And I'd like to spend the time we have talking about what's actually going on inside the case and how we put it together. Inside the computer, there's one very, very important board. It's called the motherboard. And that's the board that contains your microprocessor, the little chip, the 8088, 286, or 386 chip. That board has on it also one other very important part or area, and that's called the memory. You know, when we talk about memory, it's very confusing, because in the computer world, the understanding of the word memory is quite different than in our understanding in everyday speech. I remember when the Rough Riders won the Grey Cup 2 years ago. See, that came instantly into memory. See, but that really isn't memory. That's actually storage. That's something I had stored in the back of my mind, and you might have had it stored in the back of your mind as well. And when I mentioned it, you took it out of storage and you brought it into memory. Well, actually, you probably didn't take it out of storage and bring it into memory. You took a copy of it out of storage and brought it into memory, because it's still back in storage. You didn't forget it just because you thought of bringing it into your conscious mind. A computer works very much the same way. The memory is on the motherboard, and the storage part is on the floppy disk. Here is a floppy disk, and it's come right out of the floppy disk drive. And it's easy to understand how this type of a device can hold and store information, programs, and data. This is an excellent way of holding information, but there's even a better way, and that's called a hard drive. This is a floppy disk, and the computer also has another storage device in it. In fact, you can't see it. It's right here. What we have is we've taken one and opened it up. This is what is fitting inside of the computer. And you can see when I lay this down here, you can compare it to another hard drive that we've actually taken from a Saskatchewan wheat pool grain elevator. It's been used for many, many years, but it surely shows us, this is a big old hard drive, and it shows us how a hard drive actually can work. A hard drive, it's hard, quite different than floppy. A hard drive is a storage device. And this is where a lot of problems come into understanding how a computer is actually operating, because people have a difficulty understanding how a hard drive works, what it does, and how they can actually use it, because there are many commands and different programs that you have to learn in order to know how to use a hard drive effectively. Let's compare it, though, to a 4-drawer filing cabinet, because that's what it is. You can put all kinds of records into it. You can store millions and millions of pieces of information onto a hard drive. It's encased in a housing, and it spins while the computer is operating at 3,600 revolutions per minute. So just the wind inside this housing gets up to about 150 miles an hour. You know, why am I mentioning these things? When you buy a Duncan computer, you're buying a computer with a 3-year warranty. We subject all of our computers to anywhere from a 48-hour to a 96-hour burn-in to eliminate 95% of the problems that may occur from chips that might burn out at the beginning of their useful life. We provide a 3-year warranty with our computer, and the idea of the chips burning out, this is not really where the warranty has any real solid value to you. The warranty has value in the hard drive. The hard drive is all moving parts. And when it's spinning around at 3,600 revolutions per minute, and the wind is whistling past the head at about 100, 150 miles an hour, and the head, in fact, there are 6 heads that are going over 6 surfaces on 4 arms, and they move back and forth in unison. And the distance from the head to the platter can be no more and no less than 1 micron. To give you an idea about how thick a micron is, my fingerprint is 3 microns. And if my fingerprint was on the platter at 3,600 revolutions per minute, it would smash into the head and destroy the hard drive. The basic elements of a computer: keyboard, monitor, floppy drive, hard drive, motherboard, and the boards that fit into them, such as video boards, scanner boards, modems, and the controller boards that drive the hard drive. Well, part of deciding what computer to buy for yourself or for your own business or for your home has to do with understanding the differences between the different computers that are offered to you. The Duncan XT or XT compatible machine or 8088 computer is a computer that has an 8-bit processor in it. Now I found it easy to understand. It has an 8-inch pipe in it. And you talk about megahertz. Well, they say, well, I have a machine that's 4.7 megahertz. That's actually million calculations per second. So if you have a 8088 with a speed of 4.7 megahertz, you have an 8-inch pipe with water going through it about 470 miles an hour. A 286 or AT machine, it's an AT compatible because we're relating it back to the IBM standard that IBM set. It's a 16-bit processor. It processes information 16 bits at a time. So it's a 16-inch pipe. And you can purchase it as a 12 megahertz machine, 12 million cycles per second or 12 million calculations per second. Or in other words, you've got water going through that pipe 1,200 miles an hour. A 16-inch pipe with water going through it 1,200 miles an hour. Certainly a lot more throughput, a lot faster machine than an 8-inch pipe with water going through at 470 miles an hour. Today, the Duncan XT compatible is a 12 megahertz machine. We haven't changed the diameter of the pipe at all. It's still an 8-inch pipe, but we got the speed of the water up from 470 miles an hour up to 1,200 miles an hour. If you have a friend or someone at your office who is running a 386 machine, their machine has a 32-bit processor in it. That means that machine is a 32-inch pipe. And it could be running as high as 25 megahertz, where the water's going through 2,500 miles an hour or 3,300 miles an hour. So when you're comparing one machine to another, try using this idea of the different pipe size. The 8088 is an 8-inch pipe, the 286 is a 16-inch pipe, the 386 is a 32-inch pipe. And megahertz, think of it in terms of speed of water going through that pipe. 470 miles an hour for a 4.7 megahertz machine, or 2,500 miles an hour for a 25 megahertz machine. What do you need? A lot of it depends on what you're doing. If you're just doing simple word processing and you want to keep the family's finances and play the occasional game and teach your children DOS and have some educational programs, then all you really need is an 8088. Certainly, if all you're doing is getting started, that's all you need. Most people, however, are going to buy 2, 3, or 4 computers over the next decade. And I guess that's kind of a surprise, because most people are having difficulty buying their first one. They can't conceive of the fact that they may be buying 2 or 3 more as soon as they get started. But that's the nature of our business. That's the nature of what they're getting into. The moment that they decide to purchase a computer and bring it home, they never stop learning after that. What this means is that as soon as you get started on the road, you're going to want to possibly upgrade to a more powerful machine at some point in the future. This can happen in 2 weeks, 2 months, or in 2 years, but it's almost certain to happen. And that's where you might be looking at the 286 machine, the 16-bit machine. It's faster, it can crunch numbers quicker, so that spreadsheet that now has spread out to 150 columns and 250 rows will recalculate instantly within 2 or 3 seconds instead of taking 30 or 40 seconds. When Helene and I started building computers, we knew we would have to come up with something that would help the average person that didn't know anything about a computer get started without too much confusion, to get started in enjoying their computer right away. At that time, we had nothing that we could work with, but we put together a bunch of programs, actually about 150 of them, and we put them together in a package called the Duncan Personal Computer System. We first of all selected the format that we're going to put them together in. We selected a menuing system that allows you to flip through the menu and select any one of 150 programs very easily. You select the program by using the arrow down or arrow up button, and then you just press enter or the return, and that program will come up on the screen and allow you to get busy with it. By doing this, we were able to include some very basic programs such as word processing, spreadsheet, and database programs that allow you to run a small business. These are shareware programs, and they're included in the price of the computer. If you start to use them, you may want to register with the author for an update, and that might cost you anywhere from $10 to $15 if you're using the program regularly and you want that update. But otherwise, it's free. We also included formatting and utility programs, diagnostic programs, so you could determine whether your computer is operating properly or not, and you could begin to understand the standards that we set for operating by using the diagnostic programs. We put 60 or 70 games that can be played on a monochrome computer, so you don't have to go out and buy that VGA color system that might cost you another $400 or $500 right at the beginning. It's enough to buy the computer. You can wait. Your kids will have something to play with for weeks and weeks with the games that we have put on the computer. Most games that are purchased on a commercial basis require a color monitor. We found 60 or 70 games that you can play on a monochrome monitor, and they're right on the Duncan Personal Computer System. We thought so much of what we're doing in this area that we then decided that we would make the idea of upgrading the Duncan Personal Computer System part of owning a Duncan computer. Now, we are presently in our 3rd upgrade, and we are working on our 4th upgrade of this system. In other words, we're adding programs and adding utilities and adding diagnostics and we're taking away some of the other programs that we feel are less useful. And anybody who owns a Duncan computer, whether they're inside or outside their warranty, as long as the Duncan name is on the outside of their computer, they can walk in and get free of charge the latest version of the Duncan personal computer system installed on their hard drive. A real feature for your machine and something that adds value to it and keeps the resale value of a Duncan computer high. A visit to the Duncan Computer Warehouse will include a visit to our service department. This is the department that we're most proud of. We feel that service is the single most important thing that we can offer to you when you purchase a Duncan computer. To this end, we're open 7 days a week. We're the only facility of our type that is open that many hours and that many days. We're open till 9 o'clock on weekdays, and we're open from 9 to 6 on Saturday and 12 to 6 on Sundays. At any one time, we would have 10 to 12 people in the building who could build a computer, tear it apart, or fix it. This is very important to you because if you're working on a project and something goes wrong, you're going to want us to be there and help you to get that computer working so you can finish what you're trying to do. Sometimes we're able to do it with a phone call, and sometimes we're not, and you need to bring the computer in. When you do that, we're going to try to fix it immediately. It's really important to you that if something goes wrong with your computer, that we're here, open, and able to fix the computer with parts on hand. It's important that we don't have to send that computer off to Vancouver or Toronto, and it's important for you not to wait 48 hours up to a week in order for the computer to come back to you repaired. A couple of years ago, we started a new concept called the open bench policy. No one had heard of this, and this is something we dreamed up ourselves. We simply invited anybody that had any kind of a computer to come to us if it needed fixing. We allowed them to put the computer up on our bench. We allowed them into our service department. People who had never opened up a computer before came in and picked up a screwdriver. I never forget one day there was a lady who had never picked up a screwdriver in her life before, started fixing her own computer without any previous knowledge on how to do this in our service department on one of our benches. If you have a similar problem with a computer, you can do the same. And you are able to use our diagnostic packages or programs. You're able to use our tools. You're able to use the mountains of technical information that we have accumulated over the years to provide standards and settings, jumper settings, and other diagnostic type problems that we have documented. You're able to use our fax machine and toll-free numbers that we now have on file to the major manufacturer of hard drives and hard drive controllers and motherboards throughout North America. And we have even had to fax sometimes to Taipei in order to get information on a particular product. And you're able to use our own personal expertise because we're going to come over and help you from time to time and tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and we'll show you how to fix your own computer, and you won't have to pay any labor charge. Naturally, if you own a Duncan computer and it's under warranty, you don't even have to fix it yourself. But it's most useful to know that if something goes wrong with a computer that you have in your home or in your business, if something's gone wrong with it, you don't have to face a massive repair job. This is our reconditioning department, where we're able now to repair the motherboards and the monitors, and we're struggling now to learn how to repair hard drives. We intend to build a clean room where we can actually open up the hard drives and repair the interior. For the moment, we're using young graduates of SciAst out of Moose Jaw to help us to repair just the exterior parts and the logic boards. And we're also employing some of the top technicians that this province has actually ever come up with in electronic board repair. This department is the department that allows us to have strength in providing you with the 3-year warranty. This is where we're going to recondition all of the parts. And it's also the department which allows us to very comfortably give you our trade-up policy. The trade-up policy is the most exciting thing that this company is doing. when it's compared to any other computer company anywhere in the world, because we are the first computer company that has actively advertised that we will accept your computer back in on trade when you purchase another computer from us. Why is that really important to you? Well, naturally, you probably had one or two bikes in your life, and you are probably on your second, third, or fourth car. And even though you're considering buying only your first computer, we know that you're going to be purchasing 2, 3, or 4 computers over the next decade. When we put our name on the outside of that computer, we are saying to you that we want to be your computer maker. We're not box shifters. We're not buying boxes from some big city, not even in this province, bringing it in the back door, putting a small markup on it, and giving it to you so you can go out the front door with it, hoping that you'll never come back again because we're not in a position to service it or take it back in on trade. What we'd like you to do is buy only what you need. There isn't another aspect that you would entertain going out and buying something that you don't need. You wouldn't go into a restaurant and buy a meal and be fully satisfied that the meal has helped you satisfy your hunger, and then as you walk out of the restaurant say, well, I think I might like to buy another meal, and just put it over on that empty table. And you wouldn't go in and buy clothes, and as you walk out fully satisfied with what your new wardrobe's going to look like, and say, oh yes, and I'd like to buy another wardrobe just in case I need it. And the same thing about computers. Why would you go out and buy something you don't need in a computer? If you aren't doing multitasking, you don't need a 386. If you aren't networking, you don't need a 386. But someday you may wish to, especially if you get involved in desktop publishing, and you may wish to buy a 386 to take advantage of its graphics capability. But when you're ready for that, we'll be ready for you with a 386 that meets the requirements of that day. And it might be quite a different machine than the 386 that we're providing today. The trade-in policy is what's making our company extraordinarily unique. It allows you to buy today what you need today without having to think about what you might need in the computer tomorrow. And when you need that computer tomorrow, you can walk back in here safely knowing that we'll have the computer for you, that we've made it for you ourselves. We would like you to think upon us as being your computer maker. That completes our story to this point, and I want to introduce you to Helene before we leave. Helene is my wife and silent and equal partner in the business, and I hope when you come to our store, you will be able to meet both of us. We look forward to that opportunity.